Oh well, we're yeah, status replanted. We're 2 weeks away from being truly in the wet. So it's May the 4th be with you. Yeah. So it's about 4 o'clock now, so it's half an hour earlier than previous filmings, because as I said, we're now getting further into the wet, and we'll be truly in the wet from the 21st onwards. Oh well, the latest news is I've got jury duty. Came through the post last week for 4 to 6 weeks. right at the heart of prey failure and witty cry season, or peak king wit as we like to call it. Yeah, I'm using I think I'm using Adobe now rather than Ruth Bader Ginsburg or RBG colour, because I think Adobe's better for when there's less sun. So still got the same settings though, dynamics on high, resolution on high, and I really wanted to come out and film this wall that this chap's put up, because I quite like the grey and this look. It's just that they had a lintel in on it that I didn't like, but this doesn't have the lintel, so it looks all right. And he's put these ornamental plums in or something. It's not bad actually. I like grey because you can get moss and hopefully liverworts growing on it. But should I go down there, or should I go down the next one? It's hard to work out, fellas. Maybe the next one. But as you can see, the moss is going to green up very rapidly now with the coming regular rains. As I said, when we're in the wet, the soil basically doesn't dry out until we go into the dry, basically. And at the end of the wet, for 3 or 4 days, if the surface of the soil dries out, all the bulbous, cormous and tuberous understory plants will go into dormancy. If it rains, after 1 or 2 days, it can stop them from going into dormancy. But once they start going into dormancy, even if you have a downpour afterwards, very late rain or something, unusual season, it can't stop them from going into dormancy. So, something to know. Anyway, what do you think of the litage? And with Adobe colour, should be matching the RBG of summer, basically. And all the other settings basically stay the same. So, after 7 years, I suppose, with the camera, I can make a back of a postage stamp sort of summary. You want both high dynamics and resolution on high. In previous years, we thought it was variable for the dynamics, but no, you want it on high, actually. Back vistas. Slow pan and pause, do the old Barry Myers voice. Pan to pause, pan and pause. Yeah. So as we go into another CP season, as I said, I'm going to be busted right at the beginning of the season by doing jury duty, I suppose. So I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, we'll see what happens. But. So I've managed to summary for where we are now, CP wise. Learn how to turn salt into soil, or find a salt that you can put moss and other plants in and it doesn't burn them or whatever. Now I've got to the stage where I can take it where it looks like very fine sand, so when you have like 1 or 2 centimetres thickness on the surface of a sand column in a bucket, you know, in a 10 litre 2 gallon bucket basically, it stays really wet, looks like really fine sand, but it's not sand of course, it's like a salt that you've engineered sort of thing, and looks all quite reminiscent of wild soil, so that's rather interesting. So anyway, and the election is, well, 2.5 weeks away basically. They've had a interest rate rise of, well, 2.25 basis, but you know, going from 1 to 3.25, you know, it's mathematically speaking, isn't that 3.25 time? I know, it's crazy. It's like with some of these things with fractions, you know, you almost have to do a double take when you look at it. Now, where were we? Oh yeah, we come out here. So we so down there, so we'll just go over here and see what the... see, that's still dormant there, on the edge there. That'll be going nice and green when the fairly heavy rains. Colour check on this turquoise. Right. As I say, this is starting to green up, but as I say, here, the wettest month, scientifically speaking, is June, because it basically comes at the end of June and goes into July. But because of that, everyone thinks that the wettest month is July, but it's actually, scientifically speaking, June, but it comes right towards the end of the month, and you can have some heavy scouring downpours that normally... See, there's the Hypnum moss here. Let's go to Spot Cullen. The Hypnum moss here is starting to come back. As we get into somewhere around July, you can almost swear that you could see the water held in the Hypnum. Because we're mad about water here in the southern Abbott land, formerly Australia. Tony Abbott, failed priest, aka Dr. No, if you didn't know. And yeah, dry state on the driest continent on the planet, so we go a bit tropper about water. So if I boringly wax on lyrical about looking at wet places, damp places, swamps and bogs and things, you can probably you get an understanding of why. Then you see all the leaves and the bark has come down, and you know, it'll get slowly crushed down. Yeah, birds, you know, walking over it, animals walking over it, will slowly little bits will come off and they'll slowly break down. But yeah. Anyway, I'm just rambling. I know. I just thought you wanted another video or something. So, as I said, back to the story about the 3 of the banks passed on the rate overnight by breakfast morning, but one was holding out. But by midday, I think it was the NAB, thieving loads of, yeah, it's a good name for a bank, is it? NAB. It almost sounds like steel, doesn't it? You know, the steel dossier, the NAB dossier. Yeah, but. Yeah, by midday that was passed on as well. I mean, I think they had to do the sort of thing they did the other way, you know, when the Reserve Bank lowered the rates about a decade ago, sort of thing. They were slow to follow on there, so I think they're just making the excuse that they're always slow to cover themselves. So yeah, see the creek's still dry there. Remember, I've got a film of a duck going down there. So. Yeah, you might want to dig that out somewhere. Walking along the creek line, some of those sort of titles might, if you plug them in from last season, I think it was. Could have been the season before. As I said, time has flown during the plan or scamdemic, which if you want to call it. So yeah, some of the moss is starting to make a move now, but we move on to this sort of this area here where they're putting in trying to put in natives. So yeah, that looks like a calitris already got. Is it a calitris? Yeah, I don't know. Already got fruit on it from last season. Incredible. So, but then again, he did put this in, I think, just before the pandemic came. So they've had a good 2 seasons, I suppose. Well, here we go. Heightening, as you can see there. Just check what we're on here on general. So the Heightman's coming back, and it will get greener as we get into the wet sort of thing. So at the moment, it's got this sort of funny yellowy green, but as we get further and further, it will get greener, but it still has this sort of yellowy green look to it. But as you can see over here, we've got large swathes of it. Oh, CP related weed there, which I'm working on. What I'm trying to distinguish whether we got a few groups of plants, whether we've got mosses, liverworts and ferns, then we got CPs, and then over here we got CP related weeds. Because if you go out in the wild, you often see CPs either on their own or with CP related weeds, and then you get to areas where you just get no CPs and you get CP related weeds. And all the CP related weeds that I put up all have a particularly common characteristic. I don't know if you've noticed that. I tried to draw your attention to it, but I don't want to spoil the fun. Oh, I don't know. This wind's coming, whether it's going to play havoc with the camera. But I think we're rapidly losing the sunlight now. So I think 4 o'clock was a bit too late to go out. I should have gone at 3:30. But anyway, this is true non-daylight saving time now. So yeah. So 4:30 is really 5:30, I think. So in daylight saving time, I think, or I'm around the wrong way. Yeah. Anyway, and we got the old bike track over there, but I think they've stopped using it as the official bike track. They're moving to some other location. The usual thing, you know. People get used to it. It becomes like the international bike track for down under sort of thing in southern Aberland, and then they want to build something bigger, and it loses all the charm, all the, is it parochialism? I don't know, is that the word? What's the word? You know, all the charm of being, you know, basically in your own suburban backyard, you know. Up here in the lower foothills sort of thing, you know, the nice fine blend between urban and rural with a few patches of pristine bushland thrown in between sort of thing. But yeah, you might want to have a look. But you know, this became like the international standard for down under basically. Oh, it's laughable by international standards and probably by American standards, but we liked it. But now they want to build something bigger, and it just, you know what I mean, it just won't have the charm, you know what I mean? You know, kids grew up with this, made it their own sort of thing, collected money, got together, and if I can just clamber up this without slipping and breaking something, as you can see, not too bad, you know, and the kids loved it, you know, large enough to be alright and small enough to have a lot of charm to it, you know. The kids spent their childhood sort of thing, and now of course they want to move it to somewhere else, you know. Usual rubbish, isn't it, you know? Probably because they want to make it commercial sort of thing. They can sell more of the products, the accessories, the associated accessories or something. You know, you have the big companies moving in, and then they want to sponsor kids to become professional sort of thing, and it just takes all the charm out of it basically. I mean, it's one thing to have nice big whacking great big prize money, checks and things like that, but they have basically young to older teenagers becoming, basically go from high school to just all they do all day is practice. G'day. Say hello to your dogs for me. Oh, that's a colour check on the fluoro orange. Yeah, got into fluoro colours in WA as a lad. Like fluorescent yellow. Went through a stage of about 6 months of liking fluorescent orange. Then I went back to fluorescent yellow. As an adult now, my favourite colours are turquoise and nice lime green sort of thing. We have been down there. Might want to just quickly go down there to show the wetlands before this clip runs out, and then start another clip down something else, because you've probably seen this one before. But you can see the leaves are falling off. When it gets heavily rained on, you have a nice sunny morning or something, you can see the brightness coming off the leaves. I've shown you it before, but you probably won't appreciate it at the moment. But I just want to show you this wet patch down here, you see, and the fact that the bracken grows directly opposite from it. And you notice the sand's got this sort of nice grey colour to it, but the sand over in WA is quite grey. And as I said, went to Albany, and it was quite amazing that you had moss, large swathes of moss, and I put this up online, growing at Emu Point or whatever, Albany, growing behind the first dune. So isn't that amazing that you got a plant that can grow that close to the ocean, basically, a very lower form of plant life growing. Let's go down low and do some photographic magic. But I just like it because it's interesting, because bracken is a fern, of course. A classic. I can't remember is it a monotypic genus. It's a special fern, basically. It's one that's out there, or you know what I mean. I don't think you have. I'm not a fern expert, but from what I gather, that bracken it's all on its own, basically. I'm not sure. I might be wrong about that, but I know it's full of cyanide. So yeah. Anyway, yeah. I know it cuts out 20-minute clips or things, so it may have already cut out or something. So when we start another clip, we'll have like a small fragment or something. I should have like a little clock or something I can time things by. But all these so-called silver banksia, it's an old native that they're planting back now. So it used to be here in great swathes, and now they're sort of cultivating and planting it back in. So it has some nice... and when some of the other colourful ones, the red ones down there, flower, I'll take you, I think that's around July, August. So look out for those. I'll take you down and give you some close-ups of those with the on the macro with the camera, and get a nice sunny day so you can really see clearly. Very nice colour. And we say banksia. It's spelled Banksia, but Australians Australians seem to extend words. We shorten words, we extend words, like it's Steve-O, Dave-O, all that sort of thing. So we shorten things. And then we also lengthen words, we add extra syllables in. Like, as I said, we go from Banksia and we say Banksia, we put it's a bit like the Swedish, it's always Anders, there's a SH at the end. If you're in Sweden, it's spelled Anders, but the A is pronounced like a German vowel.